Tell me about your theology. You said, you were just explaining a kind of a practical, functional outcome, but I've got a theology about this too.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I mean, because there are people who would theologically say, okay, that makes sense at a social dynamic, but my theology does not permit that. What would you say?
Yeah, and I have long decided, I long ago decided that people are entitled to their thought and stuff. So I'm not necessarily trying to persuade them, but where I come from, the position I stand in is, first of all, we're made in the image of God, and with the talents, the potential, all of the things. That's a very rapid summary.
There's a deep dive there. Yeah.
But that's a little deep dive. But I think we start to go off even at the very beginning, where in Genesis 2, we talk about where in Genesis 2:18, it's like I'll make a helper suitable for him. And I think we project our version of helper. Our version of helper is an assistant. Our version of helper is backup plan. Our version of helper is someone who plugs in all of the gaps.
A subordinate.
And honestly, subordinate, because we see suitable as fitting and centering the other person. But actually, the word in the Hebrew is Ezer or Ezer, depending on how you choose to pronounce ancient Hebrew today. And it is a fascinating word, and when there's an obscure word or a word in the Hebrew, I like you translate it in how else you see it show up in the Bible, and it's a word which is a combination of words meaning to be strong, to rescue, and to save, which already begins to put a crack in the subordinate view. A verb as well as a noun meaning to protect, surround, defend, and cherish. When we see it, most of the time we see the word, the Hebrew is such a dynamic language, so it has a root and it extends in other ways. But the other times you see that word, 21 times you see it. Of those 21 times, I think 16 is God delivering his people from his enemies. It's often used in conjunction with strength and power.
Deliverance.
Deliverance, yeah. And so, we talk about God, but God is your refuge and your strength, and ever-present help, and ever-present Ezer in times of trouble. And we don't see God as subordinate unless we're choosing to do our own. You know what I mean?
Yes, right.
We don't. And again, when we're made in his image, I think for me, I found it a very liberating. I even understanding that word was a very liberating thing, because if you're made in God's image, if you look like your dad, what does that say about you? And that's before we even get into who does what and all of that kind of stuff. I think there so often has been and I don't know why this is the case, a picture of the fragility and the frailty of women. I think too much Shakespeare, in my opinion, on the frailty of women. And as your wife will tell you, in those delivery rooms, frailty is not required. You don't get through 35 years of periods and delivering kids or living with infertility and adopting or fostering by being fragile. Do you know?
That's right. Right. No, you're exactly right. I'm the weak link in the chain when it comes to giving those kids.
And what you see, when I look at that part of the Bible, you see this wonderful, before anything's wrong with the world, God calls her an Ezer, and this strength, power, rescue, save, and suitable, also meaning corresponding to. I've seen another theologian describe it as standing boldly opposite, equal to. And so you see this partnership, which is dynamic, both given this commission to rule and reign. And then everything goes wrong with the world and everything goes whack. And I'm like, why are we trying to live into the whack rather than the redeemed version? And I'm not saying there aren't obscure passages, but I think we've come to translate the clear things. Deborah is clear. Miriam is clear. Priscilla is clear. Phoebe is clear. And we take the obscure things and hone in on those.
Yes.
And we often don't do the language work on that, which at least represents more than one view. And so we see Deborah, who is a military leader and a spiritual leader and a prophetic voice, a woman, I call her a woman without apology, who just gets on with it in the trenches, as well as, and what I love when you see these women in the Bible, there's not like this archetype either. There are women who live out their kingdom calling in as they raise their family. There are others who you don't know whether are married or single. There are others who are women who are married, and you see them as more prominent, like a Priscilla, or culturally prominent, like a Priscilla or a Deborah, than their spouses. I was really struck by, I think it was Scott McKnight talked about women he said, you know, when we talk about women in ministry, he goes, I wonder if we could say women ministering. He said, let's look at the women in the Bible. Could Huldah, for example, who was an advisor to David and Kings, could Huldah do what she did in your church? Could Deborah, could Miriam be herself? Let's start there. Can these women who are in the Bible, validated, encouraged, celebrated in the Bible, Philip's prophetic daughters, could that, because they are clearly biblical, could they be those biblical women in
Would that
church?
story be written today in your local church? If you wanted to be the Acts of the Apostles, how do you write that one? Yeah.
Exactly. Would they be part of the story? And you know, there are women who are like, you know, honestly, my theological framework is that my scope of service is women. And it's like, rock on. My thing is train them all. train them, invest, equip them, because even though the spaces that don't necessarily believe in women leading are under-resourcing the women for what they believe they're called to. And those who say they believe that women can do all the things are under-resourcing, and are like, if you give lip service to it, but you don't do it actually, it leaves a lot of people frustrated and exhausted and confused.